Alright, so now that you guys have your value scale and your sphere done, if you want to try something a little more challenging, let's move on to doing some hair texture. So we're going to do the same thing that we did with graphite, just drawing a curl. And remember, this is the basic shape of drawing a tight curl. You're going to do like a V shape, and then you're just going to kind of do diagonal lines going across like this, overlapping. This is just the basic structure. We're going to go back in and round it out later. Okay, so now that we are finished with the structure, let's go ahead and clean up these corners here and make them nice and soft. Okay, so now let's go in and start adding some of the shading. And for this part, you want to make sure that your pencil is relatively sharp. So grab your red sharpener and very carefully sharpen your pencil. These charcoal pencils are really easy to break, so when you're sharpening them, you just want to make sure that you are not pressing super hard and that kind of thing. Alright, so now that I have my pencil relatively sharp, I'm just putting contour hatching up toward the top here where it would be really dark. And then I'm doing the same thing on the opposite end. Contour hatching coming from the top left corner and then the bottom right corner there. So you don't have to put a lot of charcoal there. You can just take your blending stick and start to smooth it out. And your blending stick will also create those, that hair texture, those lines. So once you have sort of finished with this first layer of the blending stump, then switch back to your charcoal pencil and you'll just basically be layering back and forth a bunch of times until you get the right texture and the right value going through this first chunk of hair that we have here. So now we can go in with our white charcoal and sort of add some highlights. And you don't want to fill in this whole area, just a few little lines. And then of course you want to use the clean side of your blending stump to smooth out those white lines and bring them sort of closer to the black. And that can happen where you can get black in your white. Just try and get rid of it the best that you can. It's not going to be perfect, and that's really okay. It's hard to get perfection with charcoal. And then you want to go back in with your 6B charcoal pencil and just add some more dark lines in there. And then again, get in there and sort of blend them around. You want to try and keep the black and the white sort of separate so that you can still see some paper showing through. They are going to get into each other a little bit, but you don't want to go too nuts with that because it can turn into a big mess. So the idea is just to keep going back and forth with highlights, with shadows, until you get a texture that you're happy with. Okay, so that's our first layer. So now we're going to move on to the layer that's sort of farther away from us. And this one, because it's farther away, it's going to be a little bit darker. It's going to be in the shadows there. So the whole thing is going to be pretty dark, but you don't want to make it too dark because you still want the values to show through, right? You don't want to make it completely black, but it's definitely going to be darker than the one on top. So same sort of technique, just blend it together with the blending stick. I'm not really putting any white in this layer just because, like I said, I want it to be darker. I want it to appear like it's in the shadows. So there's going to be just a tiny bit of white, but not a lot. All right, so now we're just going to repeat that same pattern again with the next part of that curl. So start with your shadows on either side and then kind of bring it together with a highlight in the middle. I'm going to speed this part of the video up just to get you through it, but feel free to pause it at any point if you need to look at it more closely. Okay, so I think I'm just going to end my curl a little bit early here. I'm not going to go all the way to the bottom there. This is just going to be my end right here. And then when I'm finished, what I like to do is take my charcoal pencil and sort of put some wispy hairs around like the outside. All right, and then you're pretty much finished, and that is drawing a curl in charcoal.